Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling George Bernard Shaw's masterpiece, Saint Joan. And let me tell you, the ideas he packed into this thing are, well, they're revolutionary and, frankly, kind of shocking. We're going to get into what he really thought about the famous girl warrior. So what if Joan of Arc wasn't this mystical saint, but a practical genius just born way, way too soon? That's the question Shaw just throws at us, right? He basically rips away the halo, smashes the stained glass window, and says, look at the real person underneath. It completely flips the script on a story we all think we know. Here's the key thing Shaw is getting at. His Joan isn't hearing magical voices from angels. Nope. Her voices are really just her own brilliant, super practical mind at work. She's a visionary, for sure, but not because she's seeing heaven. She's seeing the future. Okay, so let's get into it. How on earth does a teenage farm girl with zero training, zero status, end up leading an entire army and totally changing the course of a war? Shaw's answer? It wasn't a miracle. It was just her incredible force of will and a mind that was sharper than anyone else's. Okay, let's break down how she pulled this off. First, she just steamrolls this local squire. Her self-confidence is so off the charts, he basically has no choice but to help her. Then you've got the Dauphin, the uncrowned king, trying to hide in a crowd. Does she find him with some divine GPS? No, she just uses her eyes and some good old-fashioned shrewdness. And finally, she takes a totally demoralized army and fires them up, not with a bunch of prayers, but with a super simple common-sense strategy. Go, attack, win. And get this quote. It's not even from Joan, it's from one of her generals. He says, God is on the side of the big battalions. What does that tell you? It tells you that even the people around her knew this wasn't just about faith. It was about solid military tactics. She gave them the will, the strategy, and the numbers, the big battalions. And that's what won the day. All right, but this is where Shaw's whole idea gets, well, kind of crazy, in the best way. He argues that Joan wasn't just trying to win a war. By just following her gut, her own conscience, she was accidentally inventing the modern world. And, yep, in doing so, she was basically signing her own death warrant. Okay, first up, Protestantism. We're talking centuries before Martin Luther ever nailed anything to a church door. Here comes Joan saying, yeah, God talks to me directly. She's completely bypassing the whole system. Priests, bishops, the Pope, all of them. And you gotta understand, for the church back then, this wasn't just some kid being cheeky. This was a threat to their very existence, an idea that could tear their entire world down. And then there's the second big one, nationalism. Back then, you didn't think of yourself as French. Your loyalty was to your local boss, your feudal lord. But Joan comes along with this totally new idea. No, we're all French, and we should be loyal to the King of France. This sounds normal to us now, but back then, it was a direct attack on how society was built. So you see the clash here, right? The old world versus Joan's new world. She wasn't just fighting the English army. She was a one-woman revolution, taking on the two biggest powers of her time, the church and the whole feudal system. She was basically the future, showing up a few centuries too early. Okay, so now let's get to the trial, because this is where this clash of ideas turns deadly. And Shaw writes one of the most incredible, most chilling trial scenes you'll ever come across, because he makes a shocking argument, that the verdict was completely illogical. Now here's the thing you absolutely have to get. Shaw doesn't write her accusers as these evil, mustache-twirling villains. Not at all. He shows them as smart, reasonable men who are just doing their jobs. And their job, as they see it, is to protect their world from this new, dangerous idea that they honestly believe will lead to total chaos. Just listen to the Inquisitor himself. He's the one who says the most dangerous heretics aren't the silly, stupid ones. They're the ones who are morbidly sane. He sees that Joan isn't crazy, and that's exactly what terrifies him. She's smart, she's sane, and she is 100% sure that she is right. And that, right there, is what makes her a real threat to his entire world. And Joan's response? It's so simple, it's devastating. What other judgment can I judge by but my own? I mean, wow. In that one sentence, she basically lays out the foundation for individualism, for Protestantism, for the entire modern way of thinking. She's saying her personal conscience is more important than all the authority of the church. For them, you couldn't say anything more dangerous. So yeah, they put her on trial for heresy. But her real crimes, they were things like believing in her own judgment, wearing men's clothes, talking directly to God, and pushing this idea of France. Every single one of those things was like a knife aimed right at the heart of their world. They had to stop her, not because they thought she was evil, but because her ideas were just too big, too powerful, and too new. But wait, Shaw isn't done yet. The play doesn't end when she dies. He adds this amazing, kind of bizarre epilogue that takes place 25 years later, and it's all to make his final and most uncomfortable point about all of us. Just look at this timeline. It's wild. In 1431, the church burns her as a heretic. A couple decades later, they say, oops, our bad, that trial was flawed. And then, centuries later, the same exact institution makes her a saint. Shaw takes this incredible historical irony and just runs with it for his finale. So in this epilogue, Joan's ghost shows up to her old friends and enemies. And what do? They all get on their knees praising Saint Joan. They love the saint. But then she asks if they'd like her to come back to life, for real. And they completely freak out. One by one, they all make up some excuse and just disappear, leaving her all alone. Which brings us to this number, 0. That's how many people want the real flesh-and-blood, boat-rocking Joan of Arc back in their lives. And Shaw's point here is absolutely brutal. We love our heroes, our saints, our visionaries, but only after they're safely dead. We can build statues to them, but we are terrified of actually having to live with them. And so the play and our look at it ends with Joan's own question, which she just cries out to the sky. It's a question that rings down through the centuries, and it's not for them, it's for us. How long, O Lord, how long? When will the world be ready to actually receive its saints? Are we ready, or do we still deep down prefer them silent?